Today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Get unrestricted access to worldwide content at expressvpn.com/inside. Last week, during the big PlayStation 2021 showcase, Insomniac dropped an exciting reveal for Marvel's Spider-Man 2. There aren't a lot of concrete details yet for the largely anticipated sequel, but there are plenty of things we can intuit from the trailer and bits of lore and nods found in the two previous Spider-Man games developed by Insomniac. What's been confirmed so far is that Spider-Man 2 will be released sometime in 2023. It will be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, meaning no cross-gen PS4 version, and it's being developed by the same team that made Spider-Man 2018, with creative director Brian Intihar and game director Ryan Smith returning to lead the way. As for the new Spider-Man 2 trailer itself, there's a lot more in there than you would have thought at first glance, especially if you're familiar with Spider-Man comics. To kick things off, we see Miles and Peter cleaning up the streets of New York, doing what they do, trashing bad guys, and even teaming up to bring down the last one. That particular shot led a lot of people to believe that Spider-Man 2 would feature co-op, but that has since been confirmed by the official PlayStation blog and Insomniac to be untrue. However, obviously, since Peter and Miles have been playable in past games, it's very likely that there will be some way to switch between the two throughout the single-player campaign in Spider-Man 2. The simplest means would be by story progression, but many fans are hoping for a more dynamic, free-switching situation like in GTA 5, or maybe even real-time mechanics more similar to Kratos and Atreus in God of War. Some fans are even hoping that you play through the game twice, experiencing the events of Spider-Man 2 once from Peter's perspective and once from Miles. It's probably just a lot of wishful thinking right now, but it's fun to think about anyway. Now, going back a bit, as the trailer starts just before Miles and Peter are revealed, we see what might be an Easter egg via the street sign on the corner of Greenwich and Goodman. Goodman Street could be a reference to Martin Goodman, who originally founded the company that would eventually become Marvel, and Greenwich Street might be a nod to Doctor Strange, who resides in the Sanctum Sanctorum in the heart of Greenwich Village, which you can actually find in Spider-Man Miles Morales. Another detail once we get into the fighting is Spider-Man's advanced suit has now been altered to include 4 robotic spider legs, similar to the Iron Spider suit which you could wear in the first game, but since the robotic legs are featured in the trailer and this is Spider-Man's default suit, it could be a hint that the extra appendages will play a bigger role as far as gameplay is concerned this time around. Moving on with the trailer, we hear some VO of a man with an accent talking about his lifelong search to find an equal adversary that can beat him, and it's just largely accepted right now that this is the voice of Kraven the Hunter, who in the comics actually buried Spider-Man alive at one point. Of course, the really big reveal of the trailer and where things get super interesting is when Kraven asks, "Will one of you finally give me what I desire?" And Venom appears answering, "Yes, we will." Now, we are about to get into spoiler territory for Spider-Man 2018, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and potentially Spider-Man 2 here, so if you're sensitive to that stuff, it's a good time to bounce. Here we go. So if you finished Miles Morales and read all the notes in Norman Osborn's penthouse in Spider-Man 2018, it's pretty clear that this Venom is not Flash Thompson or Eddie Brock, but Harry Osborn. In the previous games, we learned that Harry has the same neurological disorder that took his mother's life, and in an effort to save him, Norman Osborn, also known as the Green Goblin, uses science to fuse the Venom symbiote to Harry as a means to a cure. In the after-credits scene for Miles Morales, we see Norman yelling at a scientist to take Harry out of a big tank, which would explain why Venom is out and about. What you might not have noticed is that scientist in that scene is actually Dr. Kurt Connors, aka prominent Spider-Man villain, the Lizard, pre-transformation. Now, Insomniac really did a great job of building up their own unique Spider-Man universe in that first game, and even introduced their own take on the Sinister Six. Of course, the Sinister Six has had a number of variations over the years, and if Spider-Man 2 is going to take another crack at a new roster, we potentially already know 4 of the villains in Kraven, Green Goblin, Venom, and the Lizard. We could also see the return of Kingpin, who spent pretty much the entire first game in jail, and we could surely see a return of Doc Ock, who still has beef with Norman Osborn, as well as Spider-Man, especially after losing that very emotional final battle in Spider-Man 2018. On the other hand, if you remember the marketing for Spider-Man 2018, Mr. Negative was heavily featured as the big bad, giving players a false sense of security around Otto Octavius, making the full reveal of Doc Ock and the Sinister Six feel pretty special. Something similar could be happening here, as there are plenty of other notable Spider-Man villains to bring into the fold, like Sandman, Mysterio, and maybe even Carnage, since Venom is in play. The other thing to note here is in the Insomniac universe, Harry and Peter are still good friends, meaning Venom might not be a villain right away. There are actually 2 ways to interpret Venom's reply to Kraven in the trailer. When he says, "Yes, we will," the "we" could have been referring to both the Venom symbiote and the current host, presumably Harry Osborn, or the "we" could have meant Peter, Miles, and Venom together taking on Kraven. You know, at least until the Venom symbiote fully overrides Harry's moral compass or finds a new host. If Venom does start out purely villainous, then Peter's friendship with Harry could also drive a wedge between him and Miles as they put the pieces together discovering Venom's true identity. Or maybe in saving Harry, the symbiote binds to Miles or Peter. Or maybe even Kraven, which has happened in the comics. There are so many angles here, and since this is Insomniac's Spider-Man universe, things are loosely based around a legacy of Spider-Man arcs, but anything could happen, and that's pretty exciting. The only bummer is 2023 is starting to feel pretty far away, so it will likely be a while before we see another trailer. However, it's always fun to speculate while we wait. Do you have Spider-Man 2 hopes and dreams? Let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.